This is the famous dopamine, which is the self-control chemical. The way dopamine works is something that has been proven to be physical, not metaphysical or spiritual.
How?
It is a chemical found in the brain. Every time you feel rewarded for something, these chemicals are present there. If someone injects this chemical into you, you will have a behavioral response. If someone takes this chemical away from you, you will have a behavioral response. So this is not spiritual. It is physical, right? So just like dopamine, we have GABA. Here, there are a bunch of other chemicals that are responsible for fear, anxiety, grief, anger, and hatred.
Else.
These are all chemicals. This chemical is in the brain, and we thought it was there, right? This dopamine attaches itself to a little chain of amino acids and is released into the bloodstream. In the bloodstream, it reaches every cell and goes to every cell in the body.
So it has several terminals, and these terminals will accommodate different substances. They fit together, and when they fit together, these emotions are transformed into the bloodstream, and they will reach all the cells. For example, when you feel lust, your kidneys also feel it. Your spleen also feels it. Your bones also feel it. Your ganglia also feel it. Especially your gonads, your cells that excrete substances, they all feel it, and they express agreement. Now, the cells that have the most receptors are the neurological cells. These cells are the synapses. In the synapse, they have a multitude of receptors for all of these. The second cell in the body with the most receptors for brain chemistry are the immune cells. So the cells that have the most emotions first are the neurons. Second are your leukocytes, macrophages, eosinophils, and all the immune cells. In other words, when you feel like a victim, the definition of the word victim is someone who suffers some aggression. And you release that feeling into your bloodstream, all your immune cells feel like victims, and then let it happen. Decreasing leukocyte activity, leading to leukemia, and negatively affecting your immunity. So when you watch television, 5 minutes of bad news, injustice, bad, unpleasant, and bad things, without rational and cerebral reaction, your immunity drops considerably for about 5 hours. So if you poison your mind, you decrease your immune responses. Dopamine, a neurotransmitter crucial to self-control and motivation, is widely studied by institutions such as the National Institutes of Health and the Mayo Clinic. Research from Stanford University in California confirms that it regulates not only rewards, but also motor and cognitive functions. When unbalanced, it is linked to conditions such as Parkinson's and addictions, as pointed out by the CDC. GABA, an inhibitory neurotransmitter, modulates anxiety and stress. Studies from Harvard Medical School show that low levels of GABA are associated with generalized anxiety disorders and chronic insomnia, common problems in adults over 50, especially in states such as California, New York, Texas, among others, where urban stress is high. The interaction between these neurotransmitters and the immune system is critical. Researchers at Johns Hopkins University in Maryland have found that immune cells, such as lymphocytes and macrophages, have receptors for dopamine and GABA. When exposed to cortisol, these cells reduce their activity, compromising their defense against pathogens. A 2022 study from the University of California found that older adults in Arizona and New Mexico who reported constant stress had 40% more annual respiratory infections compared to groups with emotional management practices. Exposure to negative news, common in states such as New York and Illinois, where media density is high, triggers a hormonal cascade. 5 minutes of violent or distressing content raises adrenaline and noradrenaline, suppressing the production of interleukins, molecules essential for immune communication. This explains why the National Institute on Aging recommends limiting consumption of sensationalist media, replacing it with activities that stimulate serotonin, such as walks in parks or social interactions, strategies validated by public health programs in Colorado and Washington. Furthermore, the connection between emotions and autoimmune diseases is clear. Rheumatoid arthritis patients, followed by the Cleveland Clinic, had more frequent flare-ups during periods of prolonged anger or sadness. This is because pro-inflammatory cytokines, such as TNF-alpha, are released in response to negative emotional patterns, worsening chronic conditions. The American Psychological Association warns that techniques such as mindfulness, taught at hospitals in Pennsylvania and Oregon, reduce inflammatory markers by up to 30%, according to blood tests. To optimize brain and immune health, the National Academy of Medicine suggests a diet rich in tyrosine, eggs, almonds, and fish, such as Alaskan salmon. Magnesium supplementation, spinach and avocado, foods widely available in city markets. Exposure to morning sunlight, crucial for the synthesis of vitamin D, which regulates dopamine receptors in the hippocampus, a region affected early in Alzheimer's. In short, neurochemistry is not abstract. It is a measurable system, influenced by daily choices and the environment. Institutes such as MIT are already developing wearable sensors to monitor dopamine levels in real time. Technology being tested in hospitals in Massachusetts and Georgia. Managing these mechanisms is not optional. It is a survival strategy in adulthood. Healthy aging requires understanding how biochemical and behavioral factors interact. In the United States, states such as Florida and Arizona, with large elderly populations as well as some states and provinces in Canada, have reported an increase in cases of depression and anxiety clinically linked to dopaminergic dysfunction. The National Institute of Mental Health highlights that 27% of Americans over the age of 60 have neurotransmitter imbalances, aggravated by social isolation or diets poor in essential nutrients. For example, vitamin B12 deficiency common in older adults in regions such as the Midwest due to restrictive eating habits compromises myelin synthesis, affecting the transmission of dopaminergic signals and increasing the risk of dementia. The relationship between chronic stress and cellular aging is supported by studies from the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. In elderly people exposed to prolonged emotional trauma, accelerated shortening of telomeres, structures that protect DNA has been observed, a phenomenon associated with cardiovascular disease and cognitive decline. Programs such as the Healthy Aging Initiative in Colorado encourage diaphragmatic breathing techniques and therapeutic gardening, activities that reduce cortisol by 22%, according to measurements in groups of elderly people in Denver. The wisdom acquired with age can be a neurochemical shield. Research from the University of California, San Diego, shows that adults and seniors who practice daily gratitude, such as writing short thankfulness journals or a self-payment diary for the day's actions, also known as a mental bank, in which the person, at the end of the day, lists all simple and relevant actions and enumerates them as a fictitious payment value, thus experiencing the same feeling in the brain every day as if they were paid with real money, thus training the validated brain and emotional part. People with these practices, according to this study, have 18% higher levels of serotonin, a neurotransmitter linked to mood regulation. This habit, combined with intergenerational interactions, strengthens emotional resilience and executive function, areas critical for making complex decisions, such as managing medications and finances, applying the wisdom accumulated in various life experiences. The role of the intestinal microbiota in brain health is another pillar. Studies from the University of Chicago have identified that people with diets rich in prebiotic fibers have more balanced levels of GABA, reducing episodes of insomnia. In contrast, excessive consumption of ultra-processed foods, common in industrialized fast foods consumed in many countries, alters intestinal permeability, allowing toxins to reach the brain via the vagus nerve, a mechanism linked to the worsening of Parkinson's in studies with war veterans in the United States of America. To mitigate risks, the American Heart Association recommends annual neurotransmitter checkups, available at specialized centers such as the Cleveland Clinic Lou Rouveau Center for Brain Health in Nevada. Cognitive stimulation activities, puzzles, language learning, or music. Strategies adopted by senior programs in Massachusetts. Controlled exposure to nature, urban parks in Washington and Oregon. Offer therapeutic trails with educational signs on biofeedback and emotional regulation. Neuroplasticity does not disappear with age. Data from Massachusetts General Hospital reveals that seniors who practice mindfulness meditation for 12 weeks increase the density of gray matter in the prefrontal cortex, an area responsible for self-control. This discovery is crucial for states like West Virginia, where rates of opioid addiction in the elderly are alarming. In short, qualified longevity is not about avoiding death, but about mastering the chemistry that governs life. As institutions like the Stanford Center on Longevity teach every dietary, social, or environmental Choice is a real-time neurochemical experiment. It informs seniors who apply good physical and mental health practices from Hawaii to Maine are rewriting the boundaries of aging. Take advantage and make a difference yourself. If you already knew this and do any of these practices, tell us in the comments and send this video to someone you love and who is important to you.